It looks like the strike season is upon the country once again. The Nigerian Labour Congress NLC and the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria TUC issued a 14-day nationwide strike notice to the federal government this week. Their grounds is the non-implementation of the 16-point agreement between Organized Labour NLC and TUC and the federal government on October 2nd, 2023. Leaders of the NLC and TUC are sad that despite organized labor's efforts to ensure industrial peace, the government seems unperturbed by the mass suffering and hardship across the country. NLC and TUC in a statement lamented that it is regrettable that we are compelled to resort to such measures, but the persistent neglect of the welfare of the citizens and Nigerian workers and the massive hardship leave us with no choice. I still have Ayodele Adio and Olufemi Lawson. Ayodele, let me come to you. Some analysts believe anytime you hear about NLC is when they call for a strike. Do you think Labour is in any way capitalizing on the tense situation in the country, like some have argued?
Well, honestly, sometimes I fault that line of thought, because many of the people that make up the labor union are average Nigerian workers who are trying to earn a living for themselves. They go to the same markets that you and I go to, and they buy things at the same prices that you and I buy. Unfortunately, like I said, the price shocks that the economy has had to take since last year, May, is becoming unbearable for a lot of Nigerians. And unfortunately, wages have remained stagnant. That means that as prices continue to go up, the wages of many of the workers across the country have not significantly improved. I conceive that, yes, the federal government has set up the committee to negotiate a new minimum wage. I think that committee has just been inaugurated, and they have been given a term of reference for the next I think 60 days, if I'm correct, to revert back with a negotiated increase of minimum wage. Perhaps you might want to argue that Labour would have waited for the outcome of those negotiations. But if you thought about it, and that the people who are going to be negotiating for higher minimum wage had already been disbursed or are going to be disbursed about 500 million naira for those negotiations. The initial sum was about $1 billion. You begin to wonder, as a labor man, you're wondering, these people say there is no money to pay salaries. You're paying a few people in the committee about 500 million naira. The same thing happened with the tax committee that was set up, where they had a budget of 5 billion naira. So I think that to a large extent, government has to be transparent and be accountable. If it wants the labor union to understand the situation, it must also show that it on its own is trying to cut costs, it is trying to be frugal, and it's being diligent with the resources that it's handling. So unfortunately,
Ayodele, are you there? Okay, let me come to you, Olufemi Lawson, as we wrap up. Talking of a way forward, can we afford a strike now? What happens to the social dialogue? And what do you advise both the union and the government to do?
Well, I strongly believe that the federal government will continue to engage the labor movement over this proposed strike, even though Nigerians, particularly the workforce, are not taking such ultimatums by the labor center seriously any longer, considering the number of times that it has threatened to go on strike and it never happened. But everything must be done within the limit of time to ensure that we prevent this strike. If it's preventable, we must understand that it is not to the advantage of even the government for workers to down tool. And whatever the government will be doing, particularly in the negotiations, has been undertaken by the 37-man committee, it is important that the interests of the majority of Nigerians who are not captured under whatever the terms and and conditions of the deliberations and proposals and agreement that will be reached by the new minimum wage committee will agree on. The fundamental thing is that we must consider the interest of the larger population of Nigeria, especially when you realize that only a very minute population of Nigeria are captured under this negotiation. So while it is expected that government will engage the labor movement to prevent this strike, I want to also say that Nigerians are not so, optimistic about the possibility of this, ultimatum given by the labor to go on strike, considering the previous experiences.
Olufemi, are you there as you conclude?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for your contributions. I've been speaking with Ayodele Adio, policy analyst, and Olufemi Laws, executive director, Center for Public Accountability. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your contributions. And as well, thank you for...
My pleasure.
All right. I wanted to talk about our AFCON tonight. I don't know your prediction and expectation, Olufemi.
It's Nigeria's time again, and it's going to end in 2-0 in favor of Nigeria.
All right. I like your optimism. All right. Thank you very much for your conversation so far. Thank you for watching. I am Jacinta Agochukwu. Until next week, goodbye.